Some people say the lead for finding bin Laden came through enhanced interrogation. As former director of the CIA, do you agree?
Well, this is the torture question. Usually it comes later in the... Well, there's a lot I could say about this, but I guess what I should say is stay tuned, because Films at 11, the Senate report is about to come out. On their view, it's a very flawed report. It was done by Democratic staff only, and it certainly smells that way. I have not read it. I have not seen it. I've declined the opportunity to read it under the circumstances it was offered to me to read, and I'm waiting to see what they actually are trying to say. Obviously, they did not interview anybody who was involved, as they've admitted, and the motivation for apparently spending this money and doing this Senate study into the enhanced interrogation techniques, and did they work, and did they matter, and so forth, their avowed reason for spending millions of taxpayers' dollars over 5 years to do this was to understand how this happened so it could never happen again. Fair enough. That's good. That's what we do in this country. But if you're really serious about that, why wouldn't you talk to the people who made the decisions at the time and find out what they're thinking? And not any of us who were involved in this were approached in this report. There is no material or participation by the people who made the decisions. So I'll let you judge on the report when it comes out. I haven't seen it. They're arguing about how much they're going to declassify and so forth.
But how about the main lead with the bin Laden case?
Coming back to that. Now, the next question I want to go to is the one you've asked about, did it matter? When I was first heard of this, I was the chairman of the House Intelligence Oversight Committee, had been for a number of years, and continued to be for a couple of years after the fact. I looked very closely into this whole question after 9/11, 2001. Where are we safe? That was the first question. Is something else going to happen? Because you may remember at the time, nobody ever heard of Al-Qaeda. I mean, actually, George Bush got up as the President of the United States and gave away some classified MO of how we do our business in order to convince people there was such a thing as Al-Qaeda. And of course, the people in Al-Qaeda heard it and stopped doing that, so we lost a capability to go down and track them, and it made it harder to catch them. But one of the things that was presented to me time and time again was the treasure trove of information we are getting. Virtually only good information we're getting is coming from interrogation of captured combatants, people we're getting off the field, are taking out. Now, this is unconventional asymmetric warfare. We're not talking about Geneva Protocols or anything. We're talking about guys who are running around. They're not a sovereign state. You can't bomb them. You can't declare war on them. They're a bunch of people who are trying to kill us because of who we are, and they did some serious damage. Now, who are they? How do you stop them? And how do you fight them? So we needed to get information. Our three main streams of information after 9/11 were very, very simple. It took us a while to get it. And we didn't know much on 9/11. I remember it was said that we had 6 Arab speakers, and not the dialects we necessarily needed, available to us to testify what was going on. I mean, that's just unthinkable. It was that amateur. It was that new. We were in such an embryonic time. We started going along with this. The first chain was the electronic surveillance, the overhead architecture, which is fabulous. There's no other country in the world that has the capabilities we have. We have platforms that have sensors on them that do things that you cannot imagine. They're very hard to detect for the most part, and they work very well, and you don't know you have been eavesdropped on, or whatever, had your picture taken, or whatever else might have happened. It's extraordinary capability, and served our country well. Big percentage of what we were seeing and hearing was coming from there. Well, we didn't know what it meant. If you see 20 tanks on the ground here, what does that mean? The 20 tanks is good. Now, what's going to happen with those tanks? Is there somebody going to use those tanks to shoot something or not? That's the human intelligence part. That part came from interrogation, largely and completely, understanding who Al-Qaeda was and what Al-Qaeda was, how they operated, and what they were. We would not have any of that information without the interrogation program. There was nothing else. The only other program that was yielding good results, and it was slower and a different kind of program, and it involved some cooperation of a lot of good close friends and other spots of the globe, was a program I call Follow the Money. A very highly classified program, which I won't discuss much. It was blown in the New York Times in part, but there's still aspects of it that are valuable and shouldn't be discussed. I will tell you that I was briefed regularly, deeply, forthrightly, candidly, questions answered as the chairman of the Committee of Oversight, responsible to the House of Representatives to go to them, to all my members, all of the rest of the House, and say, colleagues, I've been talking to this. I am the person I come and talk to, and Nancy Pelosi was the other. She was my majority leader, ranking on the committee. And Nancy and I have been briefed, and we have got these things, and we can assure you that we think this is appropriate, what's going on. Now, Nancy may not seem to remember quite the same way I do about how she felt about it, but nevertheless, that's what happened. You remember we did vote to do something about it, and we declared war on these folks on September 17th of 2000, whatever it was, 1. So these threads and this information was extraordinarily important. We went to the military. Nancy and I went over to talk one morning. Am I going on too long?
No, that's fine.
We went over one morning. Don Rumsfeld, was the Secretary of Defense, called us over to the Pentagon and said, sort of want to know what your oversight committee's doing about this, because we have something called Defense Intelligence Agency, the military human service, and we said we need to talk about it. And Don at that point was talking very closely with the Russians. I'm sure this is all open, so I don't hesitate. I won't say exactly how or who. But it turned out that they were worried about the Chechens, and we were worried about the Chechens, and so we had some things in common with the Russians. And then it turned out with a lot of other people we had some in common with. So we were talking about, how do you do this? How do you get information on these people and find out who they are? Well, the Russians were appalled. This is my own interpretation. Were appalled at our amateurism and our lack of conviction to talk to these people forcibly and persuade them to tell us some things they might have known. I remember after that conversation, I talked to Secretary Rumsfeld, and I said, I don't really know this, but I've been thinking about it. I was in the military, and I'm doing the oversight, and I want to know what kind of interrogation expertise you have. How many language experts do you have in the military to talk to these combatants? Because we're beginning to get people off the field. You're talking about going over to Iraq and starting some stuff here. I'd like to know what you're planning to do once you catch these people, where you're going to put them, how you're going to talk to them, and so forth. And do you have a professional interrogation program and language capability? The answer was, frankly, no. This is brand new for the military. They have tactical intelligence for sure. Absolutely, they're very good at that. The guys in the units looking out over what's over the next hill, so they're taking appropriate security measures. Yes, but in terms of the comprehensive picture of intelligence, no, not at all. We didn't understand whether we were at war. We still aren't. We don't know whether we use that word, whether we're talking about enemy combatants, hardened criminals. We haven't come to grips with these things. It is how many years later, and we're still debating this in this country. It's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic, because these people have not lost their resolve. They're still out there to hurt us, and they're doing their best to find a sanctuary. It's a place called ISIL now, as you know, and they will do what they can do to us if we let down our guard. A huge part of our guard was our interrogation program. The military continued to do what they were going to do, and I want to point out that the military prison system, the detention system, was not a professional interrogation program as it was run in Abu Ghraib. Abu Ghraib was a bunch of people who were improperly trained. It was a military installation. They had to put the people they caught on the battlefields who surrendered someplace. We don't shoot people who surrender. So we put them someplace, and we try and get information from them.